welcome to our webinar today. I'm going to introduce you to Vicky shortly from Epic, and I will pass over to her in a couple of minutes just after I've kind of explained a few bits, as I say, that we've got going on. So if you could just skip a couple of slides for you, Vicky, for me, that would be fab. So yeah, just wanted to put our contact details up there. There's a team of the three of us on the economic development team here at Uttlesford. So you've got myself, Andy and Sarah, and we're all obviously available for you to contact. The business email address is probably the best one to contact us on. So we've got some business coaching that's available to people based in Uttlesford. So if you're not based in Uttlesford, I'm afraid you aren't eligible. But if you would like to apply for this, we've still got a few places left. Oh, I think it's skipping us forward, Vicky, annoyingly.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's doing that.
No, it's all right. Might be doing it automatically, but so yeah, so the we've just got so you get 6 hours of group coaching, and then you get 2 hours of like one-to-one private sessions with a business coach. There's 3 peer groups you can apply for. One of them's women in business, one of them is I came with an idea and left with a business, and the final one is how to build a business. And we have got places available on all 3. There's more spaces on the I came with an idea and left with a business. So if it is something you're interested in, then please do contact us, and we can kind of point you in the right direction. Yeah, then the other thing that we've got available, again, for those that are based within Uttlesford, is a business startup grant. And this is for any businesses that are in their early stage, so all the way up to 2 years of trading. So take a look at the website if you'd like a bit more information about how to apply for that particular grant. Next slide, please, Vicky. We've just redone our website, and part of the new website, we've got a business directory, something that we're really passionate to kind of share those businesses we have in Uttlesford, and to hopefully enable a bit of collaboration between the businesses, and also kind of getting the residents to see what businesses are available within Uttlesford. So if you are based within Uttlesford and you want to sign up, then please do take a look at the website and sign up for our business directory. Next week we have a business breakfast on Thursday next week, so a week tomorrow, at Stansted Airport. Anybody is welcome to come along to this, so anybody that's on this call, please do feel free to come along. We have got 3 workshops that we're offering, one of them about kind of the support that's available within Uttlesford and Essex for businesses, and they're also talking a little bit about sustainability and looking at forward to net zero and what you can be doing within your business. We've got one about business finance and helping you grow your business within kind of whatever time frame you'd like, and then we've also got one about video content and kind of how to make Instagram reels and what to do, how easy to make kind of those videos, and just some ideas about how to do that. So please do come along to the business breakfast next week. It's from 8 till 10 in the morning, obviously complimentary breakfast available. So the last thing to say before I pass over to Vicky is we have a newsletter that allows you to keep up to date with everything that we've got going on, whether that's available support and advice, training that's available. We've got a skills program coming out next year, so please do keep an eye on our newsletter. And yeah, perfect. So I will now hand over to Vicky. Thank you very much, Vicky, for agreeing to come along and then speak to us. And I will hand over to Vicky, who's from Epic Limited, and she's going to hopefully talk to us about the logistics behind kind of working from home and starting your business at home and all that comes with that. So welcome, Vicky, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much. Now, these are the kind of auto-scrolling. Hopefully they won't.
Are.
They'll stay in the same place. We'll see. It might just be your slides, Rachel. But anyway.
It might be.
Thank you to... We still got just 2 visitors with us today, Rachel.
Yeah, it looks like it at the moment, okay. But we will be sharing this. So if anybody that signed up and that couldn't make it today, then we'll obviously share the recording with them.
Perfect. Great. Well, look, thank you both for joining us. Normally when I do a webinar, it's kind of interactive. So I really hope that you feel kind of brave and bold enough to unmute and then just ask me any questions as we go along. I'm really pleased to meet you both. But I'll do a little bit of an intro. I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself in a minute, but not just yet. So build yourself up for that. So I'm Vicky. I've got a business called Epic. I'll give you a very quick background about me. I have worked both as kind of a director board member of big corporate companies. So I worked for Global Radio as a managing director and director of a number of radio stations, but I've also, alongside that, through the years, woven kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. And I've had a marketing and advertising agency. I've had a retail sweet shop. I've got obviously a training business now. And at the beginning of COVID, because I needed to do something, I've also got a horticultural business as well. So hopefully you'll feel I'm well qualified to speak to you about anything business related, but specifically today about working from home. So let's set the scene, really. It's really hard running a business. I'm sure you'll agree. It's even harder if you're working from home, and with good reason. So when you go to a place of work, there are no distractions apart from your mobile phone. You can kind of immerse yourself in your work and focus solely on nothing until your day is done. But having a premises comes at a cost. You've got rent and rates, etc. So having a business that can be run or managed from home is not just a great cost saver, it's also really convenient, obviously. There's no more commutes, you can set your own working hours, you can drop work immediately if you need to. And when you've got kids, that's often what you need to do. But like most things in life, it's often about balance. And today I hope to pass on you a few ideas to get you to think about things that might help you, and some tips and tricks that can help you when working from home just be really productive and rewarding as possible, helping your business to thrive and grow, but also keeping your personal world healthy and happy, because after all, you're working in the midst of your personal world. It's important to note that what we're going to talk today is quite a lot about forming new habits. So building into your life and routine, ongoing, reoccurring practices that almost become as internalized as brushing your teeth and become really habitual. And that's kind of the journey when you're working from home you need to embark upon. Just keep that in mind. Keep in mind we're forming positive habits. I'm going to go through the agenda shortly, but if you've got any questions, I would say ordinarily post them in the chat, but as there's only two of you, please do just interrupt me. Please just ask as we go along the way and we'll try and answer them for you. And if I get any questions that we can't answer, I'll try and find an answer for you, or Rachel will, and I promise someone will come back to you. It's also worth noting that today's webinar is designed to give you some key areas to think about currently, but we might not delve into them as deeply as you would like. There's a lot more behind all of these tips and tricks. So today really is about the what you need to do, but not necessarily the how you need to do it. But I'm going to try and give you some of those as well. Okay, let's get started. Let's look at today's agenda. Firstly, we're going to look at mindset. So how we feel when we work from home and how to get really in the right mindset. And then the motivation. Where does it come from? How do you trigger that feeling inside every day when you're working quite often on your own? And why don't so many of us stay where we're comfortable in that comfort zone? Then we're going to look at imposter syndrome. I suffer from this. What it is, how it affects us all, and really how we can overcome that. And then we'll look at accountability. So taking personal responsibility for your output. And then we'll look at productivity and prioritising, and sometimes how we feel overwhelmed. Where do we start? How do we prioritise what we're going to do next? I'm going to give you some practical help around that. So there's a bit of how in there. And then we're going to talk about work-life balance, probably one of the biggest challenges you've got when you work from home. I'm sure you all agree. It's really hard to get it right. And then we'll look at networking support, including the massive benefits of budding if you're not already doing that. Then any other business, any other questions you might have, and then we'll finish. I think probably with the two of you on here, it's not going to take any more than probably an hour. But have we got any questions so far?
Yes, so I'm going to be working from home technically because I'm at the moment a sole trader.
Yeah.
But I'll be working remotely because I'm the first part of the business in order to get started. I'm going to be conducting workshops.
Yeah.
So is that something that's all covered in the advice you're giving? It's kind of weird because it's like remote worker, and because I can imagine you'd be more focused on strictly home-based work as people running a business from their computers rather than physically going out from to different venues.
Well, why don't you, this is a really good opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us what your business is. Sure. And then we can kind of put it into context a little bit more.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
Great. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what your business is.
Okay, sure. So my name is Silak Ravenspine. What happened is I used to be involved in IT for Nortel Networks, which was a big telecommunications company. When we had children, or started planning a family, my wife was in a slightly more senior role than me.
Okay.
In another company, and it was more stable. And as we all know, Nortel collapsed. So it was the right decision to make at the time. So I stayed at home to become a home carer, household, whichever role you choose to name it as. But it took me out of the workforce for a considerable amount of time. Once the kids started going, once my eldest started going to college, I thought, well, this is the perfect time, because although my youngest was still at school, it was that time where there was less dependency.
Yes.
So unfortunately, my wife at the same time also, it's going to get a bit convoluted, but bear with me.
No, of course.
My wife had to leave her job because of medical issues. So she is now unable to work. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity, it was a perfect time basically for me to re-enter the job market.
Yes.
But rather than go back into something which I absolutely detested, I thought, well, let's try and go. My first passion was graphic design. So I looked at the creative industries and decided to retrain by going to university, not simply for the fact, not just to get a degree, because my age, a degree isn't either, but it really would enable me to see how the job market progressed, how the industry progressed drastically since I'd left. But whilst I was there, I found that I was sort of disillusioned by the digital side of things, and I started to go on my own tangent, use the facilities there. So I studied ink making. I made use of the forensics labs, print making rooms. I was just basically all over the building, making full use of it, because I realised as a mature student, you kind of realise at times against you. So I've put together an ink making business now, although without any workshop space. It's kind of hanging there, because I need workshop space in order to make that side of things work. So in the meantime, what I've been doing is running workshops, sort of showing my practice in that sense. So I've been out of I've only been out of studying now for a month and a half, couple of months. Not even that, actually.
So very new.
Yeah, very new. But I've got bookings already, so that's working. That side of things working really well. So really, that's the story. I won't be able to work from home, because my core business involves a lot of chemicals, and it's not conducive to the environment of the home to do all that kind of heavy duty work in the confines of a kitchen. It's not really appropriate. So I'm looking at workshop space, or ideally a shop, cheap shop premises that I could use as a studio and then have the front as public facing. But that's a long way off. That's a long way off at the moment, because that's now throwing into a completely different area of what this call's about. So at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm working from home. So I'm doing a lot of networking from my bedroom on a computer, getting things going, and then going because I'm physically going to places. I'll be driving to meet clients. I know it sounds fancy, but literally driving to go to these places, and because I find it really helps to make introduction in person. So that's
in answer to your question, what I would say is this will help you now until you've got your premises. This should give you some. Is it very holistic, today's school? So it's all about, as you can see there, it's all about kind of how to motivate yourself to work from home, setting up a good strategy, setting up a routine. So I think whilst you're building a business, this is going to be really helpful. And I thank you for being here. In terms of putting together workshops, that's not part of the content, if that was the question, if that's what you meant. But hopefully you'll get some good stuff out of it. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was only sort of alerting to that was the model of my business, because that way it's easier for you to advise any areas which you can help with.
It's great to have some context, because it does absolutely help me. It's a really interesting business as well. So thank you so much. And then is it Linda we've got on the call as well? Linda, are you there?
I think it's Leslie.
I think
Leslie, I'm so sorry,
Leslie.
So sorry, I can't see your name. Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Hello. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're based and what you're doing?
So I'm based in Brentwood, and I'm starting up my own business. Well, I've started my own business.
Brilliant.
I've got a few clients. So due to some personal issues that are going on with my child, I've had to limit the number of clients I can take on at the moment, which is okay, but I'm hoping that maybe next year I can ramp that up. I'm running my business as a sort of side hustle at the moment, because I'm working full time in my day job still, which is also both working from home.
Really?
So yeah,
lots of working from home for you. And Leslie, what's your business? What are you doing?
So I do ADHD coaching.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so helping people, who either have ADHD themselves, or who have someone in their family, either a partner or a child with ADHD.
Well, all I can say, Leslie, that is not going to be a side hustle for very long, because there is an awful lot of demand out there. I've got a daughter who has ADHD, and I have a grandson who has ADHD. So, it's common, as you know, and the waiting times for help, as you also know, is about a 2-year cycle on the NHS.
Well, my daughter's been on the waiting list for an assessment for 4 years. So
I guess it depends where you live as well, doesn't it?
No, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I've decided I'm just going to go private with her. The only reason we're not that bothered about it is because, first of all, I'm absolutely certain she has it. I have ADHD, so does my eldest child, and there's a huge genetic component to ADHD.
There is.
If she doesn't have it, I'll be gobsmacked.
Mum knows best.
She does have it. She knows she has it. I know she has it. It's like, how could she not?
No.
But and she, because of some other health issues, she can't take ADHD meds. So we don't have any real, we're not particularly, we have no real urgency to get her assessed.
No,
because
you can only use the holistic creative.
We know that she can't take the meds because she's got heart issues, and you can't take stimulant meds if you've got heart issues.
No.
So we know that that's not going to happen. So it would be useful to have it just so that when she goes to university, she can say, I've got a diagnosis, because even though you legally do not need a diagnosis to request reasonable adjustments, it does make it a lot easier.
It helps.
Yeah. I mean, universities are all like, oh, whatever you need, you need to give us medical evidence. And you're like, that is literally not in keeping with the law.
No.
Your policies are not in compliance with the law. And but it's just, I just do not have the energy to fight people about it. It's just so much easier just to say, here's my diagnosis. Here's
a piece of paper that you want. Absolutely.
Yes.
I totally understand that. I totally understand.
Schools are the same. They're not very keen, to make adjustments if they don't have it on a piece of paper that you need them. And you go, again, actually, that's not how it's supposed to be. You should be able to request reasonable adjustments with or without a diagnosis.
Yeah.
But
on someone's word alone should be enough, shouldn't it?
Yes, exactly. But it's very difficult.
If you had cancer, do you really have to show someone a piece of paper in your workplace and say, oh yeah, look, here's a letter to confirm I've got cancer? You wouldn't question it, would you?
Well, no, and workplaces do tend to be, most workplaces, certainly larger companies, do tend to be a lot more compliant with the letter of the law than smaller places and schools and universities. Schools and universities are the worst when it comes to making accommodations for people with disabilities. They're absolutely horrendous. Whereas, you know, it seems to be the bigger the company, the more they are happy to just, you know, do whatever you ask for, as long as it's reasonable.
Good. Okay. Well, look, that's two. I mean, okay, we're going for quality, not quantity today, but both for sharing your incredible stories. They are both amazing stories. We're going to talk later on actually about storytelling when you're running a business, because it's incredibly important. But can I just thank you both for being so open and honest and transparent, and also weaving in all the personal stuff as well, because, you know, it's going to give us a really great little session. Leslie, in terms of your learnings today, you're probably an expert about working from home, but, you know, if I can give you 2 or 3 things that you can take away from this, because you're already doing it full time, then that's great. And if you think I've missed anything, then please do share. So I'll move on if that's okay with you guys. Let's talk about mindset firstly. Okay. Obviously, the pandemic, yes, I did say that word, meant big life changes for all of us, including the seismic shifting to working from home, really. And many employees did return to their normal workplaces, but as you know, many didn't. And now they're working from home, or maybe they're doing a mixture of both, which I think is called hybrid. So, and many of us changed our lives and we started our own businesses because we kind of reevaluated everything. So millions of people now either work from home for the first time, or like you are starting or running or managing a business from home. So the working world's really changed. Running a business does have some fantastic perks that we can enjoy. There's no more commute, or maybe we can wear our PJs all day. But for many of us, working in a home environment is also challenging too. Feeling stressed and having a lack of motivation, anxiety and uncertainty are all completely normal. So, you know, that's the first thing to recognise. Alongside this, many of us might be kind of worried about the future of our business, or the best way to juggle all of this with our personal and family life. And actually, it's a lot to deal with. So let's talk about mindset in a bit more detail. We've all woken up feeling hesitant, maybe pressing the snooze on the alarm clock, knowing that the accounts need doing, or just not feeling it, and so on. So firstly, how do we get in that right state of mind, the right mindset? I want to say firstly that our mood is a choice. So let's take a day when we're really not feeling it, we're not happy, or we're in a bad mood. Sometimes you know why. Things didn't go well yesterday, the order didn't come in, maybe something's going on in your personal life that's got you down, or is a real stress or a worry, or something just didn't turn out the way you hoped. Or sometimes you can be in a bad mood and you just don't really know why. You can't put your finger on it, you just know you're in a bad mood. Either way, that bad mood creeps in. It oozes into your thoughts, it fills your brain, and it causes you to be tense and to be on guard and see the world through that kind of dim lens. We all like to think that we haven't chosen this bad mood. We like to think it hasn't just happened. We want to blame external circumstances. We can even try and justify the mood externally or internally by saying things like, if you only knew what was going on in my life or my business, you'd be in a bad mood too. That's not great when you're having to run a business. Circumstances are realities, but moods are choices. So let me say that again. So circumstances are real, but the mood that you adopt is a personal choice. It's how you deal with those challenges that count. It's harder for some than it is for others. Yes, we might slip into a bad mood inadvertently, but we don't have to stay there. So a negative mood really invites negative emotions, and emotions, like moods, are not reality. They're something only you feel at the same time. So negative emotions really deplete your ability to work on your business, to think strategically, to be creative, and really to innovate, and also to collaborate. Negative moods or thinking give you a disadvantage. You're damaging your business. The circumstances are now on top of you instead of you being on top of them. So the opposite option, the polar opposite, is if you choose to have a good mood, you will have greater power, greater strength, and feel more resilient. And from that good mood, you activate a different part of your brain, different chemicals are released, your body relaxes, and you engage with circumstances in your life with greater ease. It might sound a bit hippified, however you want to call it, but this isn't mumbo jumbo. It's scientifically proven and recognised. So when waking up each day, I would encourage you to think about choosing a really positive mood. What strategies can you use for having a good mood? You know, I'm not a naive person. You can't be positive all of the time. And this is a really big subject. I'm not a psychologist. I study this a lot, but I do have some recognised and accepted tips for you here. So when considering your mindset and mood, this could be the first great tip for you. Practice positive self-talk. I don't know whether either of you have heard of this, but let's look at the proper definition of self-talk. Positive self-talk's that internal dialogue that makes a person feel good about themselves. You sometimes hear about, you know, an angel on here and the devil on here, and the angel's the positive one and the devil's kind of the negative one. People generally engage in more self-talk when they face obstacles or challenges. We might use self-talk either silently or, like me, you might kind of walk around your house talking out loud, but that is still self-talk. It's not a sign of being crazy, I promise you. But self-talk can be either positive or negative, but essentially it's how you communicate with yourself, and it's really powerful. Positive self-talk will help you think optimistically and feel motivated. Negative self-talk will do the same. Positive self-talk will help you feel encouraged and can be used as a really strong coping strategy when you face challenges. And start looking in the mirror saying you can do this. It sounds cheesy, but it does really work. And running your own business is a real challenge, especially if you're working home alone. After all, who else is going to give you that really positive dollop of motivation if you're on your own, other than yourself? But we can't be positive all of the time. What if negative thoughts are holding you back? Well, identifying negative self-talk is actually, it's a skill and you need to practice this. But if you can identify that, it's a really good first step towards thinking more positively. A recent study actually found that on average, we have about 10,000 thoughts per day. And of those 10,000 thoughts per day, 75% of them in the average person are negative. So can we just stop ourselves and spot that? Because negative self-talk has that detrimental effect on your self-esteem and also on your own self-worth and abilities. Scientists suggest that negative self-talk will lead to a vicious cycle and a kind of fulfilling prophecy. So let me give you an example. If a person tells themselves that they'll not be able to do something, they're then likely not to put so much effort into it. Then when they fail, that person might think, well, I knew I couldn't do it. You see, this is typical. I knew that would happen. It kind of reinforces that famous Buddha quote of what you think you become. So stop, if you can, try and notice that negative self-talk and turn it around before it takes hold. That'll help you think more positively and change your behaviours. And the good news is that negative self-talk is one of those habits that you can change. First of all, know what it is. Second, try and recognise it. So the first step is just recognise it in your head. Notice how you talk to yourself when you're faced with challenges. Now, a really good how to deal with this is if you have a negative thought, write it down. Let me give you an example of a negative thought and then the purpose of writing it down. So if you think, God, this is too difficult, write that down and think about, okay, how could I turn that into something more positive? Well, if you think it's too difficult, the more positive version is, I can give it my best shot. Or it doesn't matter if I mess things up because I can learn from this. So when you have a negative thought, write it down and then think about turning it into the polar opposite version of that same thought. Do that regularly until you've kind of retrained your brain to think positively rather than negatively. Now, one thing that's really important to note, when you practice positive self-talk, do it with empathy. Talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend who needs encouragement. Don't talk to yourself in a sergeant major kind of way. So let me just say that again. Talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. You know, you can do this. I believe in you. This isn't insurmountable. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake. Come on, give it your best shot. Don't talk to yourself in like a really bossy kind of way. So before we move on from that, I just want to ask either of you or Rachel, have you got any questions on positive self-talk? All good? Great. We'll move on then. Another way to get yourself in the right mindset is to remind yourself of the rewards when you're working from home and you're running a business. So working from home can be really hard, but it can also be really flexible, fluid and rewarding. So remind yourself, what are you doing this for? Why are you running a business? What do you hope to achieve? And how will you reward yourself? Ergo, what really motivates you? So for me, I like to have a holiday on a regular basis to kind of reward myself and take a break and get away from everything. Or it might be that you're working towards building up a company that you can get investors for, and then you can have a buyout and retire early. So keep your eye on the prize. Sometimes a visual aid is good to have in your home workspace, such as a desktop wallpaper or just a picture in your office. And finally, in terms of motivation and mindset, here's a really important one. Be the best version of yourself. So in other words, be the best version of yourself each and every day. My dad used to say to me, look, imagine, a bit like Big Brother, that you're being filmed every waking hour, every waking minute, and someone comes along and they edit together all the worst bits of your behaviour in that day or that week. Would you be proud of that? Would you be happy for other people to see it? And if the answer to that is no, then your behaviour needs to modify to be the best version of yourself all of the time and be really consistent. Also, eat well, sleep well, and be kind to others. And treat again yourself like you would your best friend. So think about that again for a moment. Be kind. And a general tip for work and personal life is never ever say something you don't mean to anybody, professionally or personally. Now, thanks to the NHS, I really want to share with you some practical environmental tips to help you work from home that will really help your mindset, your motivation and your efficiency. Okay, so first, set and stick to a routine when you're working from home. Without steady schedules, the lines between work and personal life really can become blurred. So follow your normal sleep and work patterns as if you were going to a place of work, if you can, and stay consistent. Try and get up at the same time, eat breakfast, we all need fuel, and get out of those PJs, as tempting as it may be. Or just keep them on in your bottom half if you're doing a Zoom call. Actually, I have got proper trousers on. Try scheduling in the commute time and spend it maybe exercising, reading or listening to music before you kind of log on and start working for the day. And most importantly, when your workday stops, stop working, shut everything down, don't check emails and focus on your home life. And at the end of the day, try and get to bed at your usual time. Have a dedicated workspace. If you can, find a quiet space away from people and distractions like the TV in the kitchen. If, like me, you can sometimes get a bit snacky. Get everything you need in one place before you start work. Chargers, pens, paper, anything else, and shut the door on your workspace if you can. Even in a small space or shared space, try to designate an area for your work. And get comfortable. While it might be tempting to sit on the sofa, it's much better to sit at a desk or a table. And there are some official guidelines that where you can set up your workspace correctly and try and do that as much as possible. I think if you go to www.hsc.gov.uk, there's a home working space there that you can look up. If you don't have office furniture, like an adjustable chair, try using things like cushions to support you in the chair or a box as a footrest. Another good couple of tips are to personalise that space for your business. Maybe some pictures or motivational quotes. And don't forget to look after all of your senses to help you relax and get in the zone. So I like to have a reed diffuser around me, just so I've got some nice comforting smell that reminds me of safety. That can work really well. Plus, it's also important to take a break. So making time for breaks is super important to help manage any feelings of stress or overload. Try and take lunch and regular breaks like you would if you were working in an office. Give yourself time to concentrate on something else. Even just 5 or 10 minutes of short breaks are really powerful and will really help productivity. If you've got an outdoor space or you can go outside to spend time in green space, that's really important. We all learned that from the pandemic. So get that good dollop of fresh air. And working from home, as we've identified, can be lonely and isolating. So it's really also important to stay connected. So working from home has its benefits, but you might feel isolated. So there are lots of ways to stay in touch with those that matter to you personally or your business. Plus, it will boost that mental health and well-being. In and out of work, human interaction is really important. It's amazing. I've spoken to loads of business owners over the years, and many of them are still really resistant to video calls rather than phone calls, but that's much better for social interaction than just a phone call. So where possible, schedule video calls over phone calls. And then at least if you can't do that, a phone call is better than emailing. We've all fallen into this electronic trap of emailing. You can get so much more done if you speak to somebody. Find out how they're doing and whether or not there are ways to support you. And other business owners probably are feeling the same things as you. So make an appointment to socialise virtually, schedule in a digital coffee break on a Friday morning. That's a great time to catch up with fellow online business owners. Or even better, if time allows, try and do a face-to-face. We've kind of got out of the habit of that a little bit, haven't we? So I think staying connected, things like this are really, really important. Has anyone got kind of any observations or any questions on that at all before I move on? No, all good.
It's all very, very good in principle. It's a lot hard. I mean, I know all of this, but it's a lot harder to put into practice. I find it very difficult to switch off. During the day, I tend to try and get as much as I can done because a lot of it's practical work, and if it's not raining, I'll go outside and do as much as I can. And then in the evenings, I always try to get all the admin done, or I'll do it in the mornings. But there's so much admin, like computer-based stuff, writing emails, planning stuff out, going through all the what would have been paperwork, but is now digital. And I find that can eat up days if you're not careful. And I will often find that I'll go through an entire day of not eating, just to plow through it all. And get as much of it done as possible. But you're absolutely right. It's draining, and you feel the effects the next day. You're exhausted. You're battered, quite frankly.
I think it's really difficult, isn't it? Because you're right. What I'm saying is easy in practice. It's harder to do in reality. I think there's a couple of things there. The first thing is when you're setting up a business, I agree with you. You do have to put in the hours just to build it up. And I get that and I understand that. Part of what I'm going to talk through later on is how to prioritise, and hopefully I'll be able to give you 1 or 2 ideas to better do that. But what I would say is you will be more efficient if you eat and take breaks. You will get more done. You're going to have to trust me on that. and it's a habit you're going to have to try and form. Even if you're still working many hours, I would implore you to stop, have something to eat, take a break for 5 minutes, schedule the breaks in. Try and do that for me and create those new habits, because it is like brushing your teeth. You have got to build these new habits in. You have got to respect that they're important, and you will see the benefits of it. You're just going to have to trust me on that, okay?
I totally agree with you. Like I said, I know it in principle, and I know it's the right thing to do. Yeah. And it's just really, like you say, is enforcing those positive habits.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about it later on, but I suggest that what you do is you schedule breaks in so that they pop up and remind you, look, and they're deal breakers. You've got to have them, okay? They're as important as the work that you're doing, I promise you. Okay, that's a good observation, though, and that's the reality of it. That's the challenges you face. So now let's talk about, it's a good segue, setting boundaries, which we're just talking about. It's really difficult setting boundaries. And I want to talk about setting boundaries with other members of your household first, because that's really key when you're working from home. Working from home gives you a lot of flexibility and you must enjoy that, but it's also really difficult. There are distractions to deal with, like children who might think you're on holiday, might be sick, they want to spend time with you. Or what I find is neighbours or friends who think because you're working from home, they can just call in on you and they just show up because they know you're at home and they're not thinking about your business. So you've got to regularly and repeatedly have discussions with these guys about your needs with them, and what those boundaries are. Remind them that you've got work to do, you've got business, you need quiet time to do it, and these are good times to interrupt you. It's easier to stay logged on when your home is your office, but you've really got to try and switch off when the work day is over and enjoy time with your family at home. I did some training last week for a cohort of 20 young greenkeepers for the greenkeeping industry. And they did a Q&A with their mentors. And one of the bits of feedback that the mentors gave was about their biggest sacrifice. And two of them had the cost that they'd paid for being so successful in their businesses was that they'd lost their marriage. They were going through a divorce. Please don't let things get that bad. And you've got to consider and you've got to accept the long term. So running your business from home might, well be for that long term. This is a long term plan for you. So think about ways that you can improve how you work at home. So if you've got a room that's warmer or has a window that lets in a bit more light, could you work there instead? Do you need to have a really good declutter, because that will in turn help you declutter your brain and how you're thinking? Would it be a good idea to invest in a liftable desk so that you can stand up and work for periods of the day? I mean, since about 2008, I think I worked professionally within the boundaries of a paperless office. So for me, my business, that works well and gives me the space mentally and physically that I need. I've embraced electronic diaries and new technology and online project management tools. And that's helped give me the headspace that I need. So kind of embracing change and being okay with change. So that could be a good change for you. Also trying to explore how you work with others. So are there better ways to talk online, or is there new software you could learn or you could use? And let's go now back to how you feel about yourself and how you treat yourself. It's really important that you're kind to yourself. Running business from home is a challenge. It's not like going to a place of work. There are those distractions. If you're new to this, it can take time to get used to it, and things may not feel normal. You've got to find your rhythm, find the boundaries. So acknowledging that you might not be as productive as you thought you would be, or that you're exhausting yourself, either of those spectrums, and we're talking about both of those today. It's okay, but you've got to find this middle ground, and you will get better with practice, and adopting some of these techniques that we've talked about today is really important. Spend time doing the important stuff, but also be realistic about what you can achieve. And it's so important to relax, because you'll just be more energized the next day and you'll have more focus and you will get more done in a lesser amount of time. It is possible. So here's a couple of things I'd like you to highlight here. So firstly, let's talk about comfort zone. Your business has many opportunities yet to be discovered. Working from home enables you to be environmentally comfortable, but therefore working in your comfort zone is a common trap. So we kind of do the tasks we're comfortable with. We avoid speaking to people. We avoid, we kind of email them instead. Perhaps we're not working on strategies because we don't know where to start and it seems a bit too daunting to tackle. But here's one thing: if you want to grow your business, you've really got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's a really important thing. Let me show you why. Because when you are in that comfort zone, which you can kind of see there in the brown bubble, you feel safe and you feel in control. But unless you feel the fear and take some new actions and do things that you haven't tried before, you're not going to learn and you're not going to grow. However, you guys are here today, so we can safely say that you're adaptable and open to learning. So you will be growing and continue to do that. And here's something else as business owners we often have to deal with, and that's imposter syndrome. Just be interested to ask, actually, do either of you kind of recognise this, or even you, Rachel, is this something you recognise in yourself at any time?
Do you know, this is really interesting because I've done a number of events and webinars and things for our Startup September month, and this has come up in nearly every single event that I've been to. And it's really interesting. I did a young person's event in Chelmsford yesterday, talking to people from 18 to 30, and that was the demographic, and they were talking about it. And it was interesting that even they were talking about it. And then I went to like a women in business event and they were talking about it. And so, yes, I recognise it in myself, but I also have seen it be mentioned a lot recently.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think when you're an entrepreneur and you've got a business and you have success, you kind of question it, don't you? It's a constant thing. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do today, and I don't know, you'll have to tell me at the end of this, Leslie, whether this is anything that you've seen in all of the webinars or the face-to-face things that you've done. We're going to talk you through actually the theory behind it and the 5 different types of imposter, and tell me at the end whether you can relate to one of them or 2 of them. For me, I have a bit of a mixture, but let me talk you through them.
Well, I can tell you, Victoria, that I've got a lot of experience with this, because it appears in so many things. It's not just, like, oh, I don't believe I can do this, or, who am I to think that, I can run a business and, make 6 figures, or, whatever. But it also appears with people doubt their diagnoses, so especially, I see it a lot with people with ADHD, even kids that get diagnosed with it. They're like, I can't really have that. It can't be right, and then it's not helped by the media and other, and society going, oh, we're all a little bit ADHD. Yeah, no, we're not. That's like saying we're all a little bit pregnant, because we're not. And it's and obviously people go, oh, it's a trendy thing to have, and then it makes people
this
question.
Label thing.
Exactly, it makes people question, do I actually have this thing that this doctor has said I have? And I see it with not even with just ADHD diagnoses. My children have both got a rare physical disease, and both of them have said to me, are they sure? And I've like, you've seen specialists who've actually seen this before, and they've said yes, so probably you do have it. It's more likely that you do than that you don't. But it's a thing, I think, that happens everywhere. It's not just about success and
what you're saying is that with the diagnosis of ADHD, your children, as an example, might even feel that they don't have it, and they might be an imposter in that world. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and it's not just it's not just my children. I mean, it's I've seen it in my clients, and I've seen it in like across the sort of age spectrum of clients. Sometimes you get women who have been diagnosed quite late in life, so they're in their 50s and they're like, I can't possibly have this thing. Surely somebody would have noticed in the last 50 years. And you're like, well, these things that you've struggled with all your life, these things that you thought were just because you are not good at these, at this, that is actually your diagnosis.
Yeah. The penny drops, but
but
don't quite believe it.
No, exactly. They don't quite believe that their experience is real, and they don't, a lot of the time they come to a coach because they actually want it validated. They need that somebody to say.
That's where you're going to be stepping in with your business.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, you're going to be a proper expert at this. So apologies if I'm giving you any information that makes you feel like
no. I'm very happy to learn. I'm quite sure that I can learn something from you. I'm quite sure that you've got something to tell me that I don't know.
Well, let's see. You can tell me in a moment. Okay, let me talk you through it. So let's see if any of this resonates with either of you, right? So imposter syndrome means that, and that there are deeper meanings to this. I'm going to give you the basic introduction and then the different types. So even though you are highly skilled, even though you're accomplished and others praise your talents, if you have imposter syndrome, you write off your successes to timing and good luck. Oh, I was just lucky. I was just in the right time or the right place. Those kind of phrases. You don't believe you earned the credit on your own merits, and you fear others will eventually realise the same thing and discover you're a fraud. So as a result, you kind of pressure yourself to work harder. You'll unnecessarily overcompensate, and you might overcompensate in the following way. So let me talk you through these. You'll prevent others from recognising your shortcomings or failures. You'll make up for what you consider you lack in intelligence in other ways, and you'll ease feelings of guilt over your deception to others. Now, further accomplishments don't necessarily reassure you. You consider them nothing more than the products of your efforts to maintain that illusion of your success. And any recognition you earn, well, you call it sympathy or pity. And despite linking your accomplishments to chance, you take on all the blame for any mistakes that happen along the way. Even minor errors reinforce your belief in your lack of intelligence or ability. Now, over time, this can fuel a cycle of anxiety, depression, and guilt. And living in constant fear of discovery, if you're at the extreme, you can really, your behavior will modify, and that you'll continue to strive for perfection in everything you do. And that's not realistic. So you might feel guilty or worthless when you then can't achieve perfection, not to mention burn out and overwhelmed by your continued efforts. So I guess, you know, we can all resonate that with at some times. There's actually 5 recognised type of imposter syndrome personality types. So I want to look at these, and this is kind of see if you recognise yourself in any of these. Firstly, the perfectionist. So the perfectionist kind of primarily focuses on how you do things, often to the point of where you demand perfection of yourself in every aspect of your life. Yet since perfection isn't always realistic, you're never going to meet those standards. And instead of acknowledging kind of the hard work you're doing, you've put in after completing a task, you might criticize yourself for those small mistakes and feel ashamed of a huge failure, but it isn't huge. And you might then even try and avoid trying new things and staying in your comfort zone if you believe you're not going to be able to do them perfectly. Then we've got the natural genius. You've spent your life picking up new skills with little effort. You believe you should understand new processes and materials straight away, and you get really frustrated if you don't pick something up quickly. Your belief that competent people can handle anything with little difficulty leads you kind of to feel like a fraud if you do struggle. And if something doesn't come easily to you, as I said just a moment ago, you might feel ashamed, you might feel embarrassed. Okay, the next one, the rugged individualist, sometimes they're called the soloist. You believe you should be able to achieve everything on your own. If you can't achieve success independently, you're unworthy. That's what you tell yourself. Asking someone for help or accepting support when it's offered doesn't mean, that means you failed if you need help. Kind of that's what the rugged individualist or soloist feels like. It means you're a failure. It means you're inadequate if you need help. Then we've got the expert. Before you consider your work a success, you want to learn everything there is to know on the topic. Sometimes this is called the expert or the researcher. You might spend so much time pursuing your quest for information that you end up having to devote little time to your main task. And since you believe you should have all the answers, you might consider yourself a fraud or failure when you can't answer a question, rather than having the humility to say, well, look, I don't know the answer to that. I'll find out and I'll come back to you. And then finally, the superhero. So you link competence to your ability to succeed in every role you hold, whether it's student, friend, employee, patient, parent, or a business owner. Failing to successfully navigate the demands of the role simply proves, in your opinion, your inadequacy. So you're not perfect at everything. You want this perfect life, perfect world. And you should be the best version of yourself in all of this. So what you do is you push yourself to the limit like a superhero does, expending as much energy as possible in everything that you do. That's exhausting, right? I have a little bit of this. But even pushing yourself to the limit and giving maximum energy and maximum effort may still not resolve your imposter feelings. You might think, I should be able to do more, or this should be easier. So if you're feeling like a fraud, working harder to do better may not do much to change your self-image. So I'm going to talk you through some strategies that might help you with imposter feelings. But before I do that, can either of you kind of relate to any of that?
I'm going to interject because I think Leslie's already answered that question.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely. I think I more so before. I mean, I'm be honest with you, I'm in my 50s now, and I've really come to appreciate my own worth a lot more than I did in the past. And that's my only regret, is that I think I allowed myself to be swayed by the opinions of others far too often, and I should have had more faith in myself. But that's very difficult to have, especially when you're trying new things and you're trying to to step away from the expectations of society and be an innovator and go that path. It's very easy to be knocked off and being told that you're never going to succeed, never going to do something, and it doesn't take a lot for that to be amplified exponentially in your own mind. A slight little comment, a slight little word out of term can really resonate. I still have, every so often I'll have little phrases somebody's said to me in the past. It just bounces back into my head every so often, and it's nothing comments.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
So yeah, absolutely. I think, but I think everybody, it's a very common neurological manifestation. It's a very common thing for us to focus on. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I mean, we're going quite psychological here. I make no apologies for that, because the psychology of running a business is the backbone of what will make it work or not. So the kind of tips and strategies I'm giving you today, they're not my tips or strategies, they're recognized tips or strategies. And if it all helps us a little bit, it's great. I tell you what, I just picked up on what you just said though, is I'm guessing when you're talking about people saying things that pop back into your head, they're kind of negative slurs. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, just off the cuff comments. I mean, negative. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I concur. And we are the sum of all the people we meet, and it just shows you the power of words, doesn't it? A lot of it is about self-belief and self-worth. But words really do hurt, from going back to when you're a child at school right the way through. I remember what somebody once said to me. I was working in the corporate world. I was kind of rising in my positions in the radio industry, and I had an interim boss. And I would point out things that could be improved. So without moaning, I'd always say, look, I don't think this is right, but here's a solution. I don't think this is right, but here's a solution. So because that innovative spirit in me, I wasn't a yes person. I remember once an interim boss saying to me, you're like a squeaky wheel. Every time I speak to you, there's another squeak. And it stuck with me, but I also recognise in them how wrong that was, and how not to be as a manager and a leader. And I suppose for me, turning what was quite negative into a positive, well, I'm never going to be like that. No suggestion is ever bad. Someone coming up with lots of new ideas, that's never a bad thing. It's again, and this is why I started with mindset and positive talk and negative self-talk. That's the backbone of a lot of this. It's the backbone a lot of imposter. Let me talk you through some of the tips I've got for you on this, and it'll make more sense actually. So talking to a trusted friend or mentor can really help you with imposter syndrome. Someone that will give you that outside context on the situation, and that can really help those feelings feel less overwhelming. Another really good thing to do is to just build those connections. Avoid giving into the urge of doing everything yourself. Instead, create a network of mutual support. Remember, you can't achieve everything alone, and working from home and running your own business, it's really tempting to think that, you've got to do that, but that's martyrdom. And there are lots of people out there that want to help you. And there's lots of free support out there as well. A good network can really offer guidance, support, validate your strengths, and really help you to grow. Challenge your doubts. So when imposter feelings surface, ask yourself whether any facts support those beliefs. then look for a piece of evidence to counter them. That positive self-talk that I just touched on, again, whilst being kind to yourself, thinking always of the positives. Leslie, I think you talked about this as well with social media. Avoid comparing yourself to others. You know, social media is the wonderful thing. It's also heinous, really, in many ways, because young children and young adults now are constantly comparing themselves to this fake filtered image of what the world looks like. And it can be really damaging. Remember, you are a unique human being. You have unique abilities. How quickly you get to where you want to be in life is a different journey for everyone. So that's why comparing yourself with others is really dangerous. You're where you are today with your businesses because you're brave and because you're strong and because you're entrepreneurial. So, you know, recognizing that self, you know, it takes balls to start your own business, let's be honest. And those talents and the potential that you have are amazing. And you may not excel in every task you attempt. Perfection will never be achieved. So be kind to yourself and not too hard on yourself. Almost no one can do it all, even when it seems like you have everything under control. And it's okay to need time to learn something new, even if somebody else seems to grasp that skill immediately. The bottom line is that success really doesn't require perfection. True perfection isn't possible. So not achieving that doesn't make you a fraud. Give yourself compassion, treat yourself like you would your best friend, and continue to grow yourself. But remember, you must also be accountable. So as a business owner working from home, it's possible you're responsible not just for holding yourself, but also any other employees you might have accountable for meeting your business performance goals and objectives. It's hard if you've got team members. I don't think either of you do, but if in the future you do and they're also working remotely, here's a few good accountability tips, and they are the 4 P's: people, purpose, performance, and progression. So people matter. People are your most important resource. You are your most important resource to your own business. People drive performance, not technology or anything else. So as you promote accountability, help yourself or any others that work for you feel safe, valued, and cared about. And then purpose. The goal of accountability isn't to punish, but rather to create a supportive work environment where you can thrive and drive performance. Then let's talk about performance. So accountability focuses on performance and ensures everyone in the business is contributing to the organisation's success. So focusing on performance improves morale. As you focus on performance, don't compromise on integrity or ethics. And it's also important to avoid the appearance of compromise. And then finally, with accountability, progression is really important. The act of moving forwards through continuous improvement to help performance goals getting achieved is really important. So always looking for new ways of doing things, always trying to do the best that you can. That will involve catapulting your performance and others to much higher levels. And that comes from coming out of your comfort zone, looking for new ways of doing things. I don't know whether you believe in star signs. I'm a Capricorn. Apparently, I'm always climbing the hill, looking for new ways to improve things. That's true. I don't know whether there's any link to my star sign or what stars were out when I was born. But progression and constantly looking for new way of doing things and innovation is really important as an entrepreneur. But then balancing accountability and support is really a balancing act. It's really important you move towards your goal, but it's also important to create that supportive network. So accountability really matters, but people matter more. And how you prioritise your workload will have an immense effect on not just the accountability, but also your effectiveness. So I want to have a look now at getting organised, I guess, productivity and prioritisation. Before I do that, has anyone got any questions on accountability? We're moving towards the end now, guys. It's absolutely fine. If you need to interrupt, you go for it. So productivity and prioritisation, as we've just discovered by talking to each other, it can be a really big challenge. You might have great intentions, but there are lots of causes that prevent things from getting done, like we've talked about. You might have a low mood. You might have stuff to do that's outside of your comfort zone and you're kind of procrastinating and you might not know where to start. Being productive means getting the most out of your time, not spending lots of time doing something. And that's really important. You have to understand and ask yourself every morning when you sit down to work, what is the single most important thing that you need to do today to help your business grow tomorrow? Now, this is a great filter. In every business that I've had, every morning I will ask myself, what is the single most important thing I should be doing right now in this moment? I'm very commercially minded. You know, I've managed sales teams. And I guess the point is this: the single most important thing you should be doing every morning when you sit down to work is probably outside your comfort zone. And for most people, it's probably some kind of sales. It's probably engaging with customers or clients to win a new potential contract or progress the continuation of a sale to win a new potential contract or piece of work. So it's probably some kind of sales. Because if you get that right, everything else will follow. The admin can come later, the paperwork can come later, the organisation of that contract or that sale can come later, but it's probably speaking to customers. It isn't about working ridiculous hours or frantically typing away at your computer. It's about how you utilise your time in the best possible way. Things that are going to give you the best return of your investment of the most precious commodity you have of all, and that's time. So there are lots of things that you can do to become more productive. Some of these will be obvious. I'm going to go into depth on some of these a bit more. Set goals, create a plan, use tools and techniques, obviously. You can also learn how to manage distractions, which we've talked about earlier, and stay focused on what's important, which we've just touched on. Again, that environment you work on is key, having an uncluttered space, a clear plan, good lighting, no distractions. You also need to make sure you take care of yourself physically and mentally. So working those long hours and being exhausted is not good for you. You know, you can't always help it if you're sick. You might have to make those adaptations, especially if you have a disability or a special educational need. But if you have the flu or you didn't sleep well or you have a hangover, you know you're not going to have such a productive day the next day. And while some people might make organisation look effortless, their ability to plan and utilise their time efficiently often has a lot to do with those well-established habits that have contributed to high productivity over time. They've been doing what they do for a number of years and they've got it off to a fine art. So again, I implore you to try and adopt these new habits, these good working practices. As you touched on earlier, you know a lot of this stuff, but you haven't yet incorporated this into your life as good working practice and a habit. They say you've got to do things like 100 times before they become a habit. So maybe you've got to practice these things for a year or 2 years before they form a habit. Keep on doing them until they're internalized and they become just like brushing your teeth. So look, there's a number of things you can do to be more productive. Obviously, create a plan. It sounds really obviously, but do you have a plan? Because if you do, you'll be more likely to work towards it and you'll be more likely to stay on track. Find a daily planner that works for you, whether this is a paper-based planner or an online app. Planning what you need to do and recording it improves your productivity massively. Technology is great with this. So there's loads of software and techniques you can use. I'm going to talk you through my own system now and share it with you because it's helped me massively. You know, you've probably heard of the ABCD thing. You've probably heard of the today, tomorrow, next week plan. But I use the time blocking process. So let me talk you through that. I'll get a bunch of Post-it notes. I'll stick them on a big table, a workspace that at the top they've got the headings daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, 6 monthly, yearly, etc. And then I'll capture on separate Post-it notes all the tasks. Those tasks I believe that I have to do daily, working on sales. Those tasks I think I have to do weekly. Maybe that's my social media and marketing. Those things I have to do monthly. As an example, that might be reconcile my end of month accounts, see whether I'm up year on year, month on month, reconcile my receipts, do my accounts, blah, 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 monthly, as an example. And then once I'm sure that I've absolutely captured everything under each heading, I'll take a picture of that, and then I'll transfer them straight into an electronic diary, so that my plan is my diary is my to-do list, and it's all in one place. I like to keep things simple. That works really, really well for me. I mean, scientists have proven that planning activities and utilising to-do lists really helps reduce the executive burden of worrying about unfinished tasks, and it frees up resources then to focus more on the actual projects and tasks. It's actually called the Zeigarnik effect. So it has a name. If you want to know how that's spelled and you want to look it up, it's Zeigarnik. So as you plan your plan of action, think about what you need to do in order of priority. Forget the comfort zone, come out of that. Think about how often you need to have it done, or any deadlines that you might have, and then plot it, potentially straight into a calendar or whatever works for you. If you have a big task or project, just break it down into single steps and plot the steps, rather than looking at the whole thing and thinking, whoa, that's just too much for me. Then fight procrastination, as you'll see there, as the third point. Procrastinating until the last minute is another bad habit that can take your toll on your ability to be productive. Procrastination is often linked to problems with self-control and time management. It also can be linked to lack of support and having those people around you that you can seek counsel from. So the first step is figuring out why it is you need to procrastinate, as we've just talked about. So is it that it's just insurmountable? Is it that you haven't broken it down into small steps? Is it that you want to seek somebody else's advice? But once you've done that, then just break it down into a step-by-step task. Then you can even set a timer and commit to working on it for a certain amount of time. Please, don't be too proud to ask for help. Delegating some responsibility on those bigger tasks can free you up to focus on your time on things that are really going to help you accomplish your goals. It might involve asking family members to pitch in, or you might pay some subcontractors to handle the tasks you don't have the time, energy, enthusiasm, or expertise to do. And then learn how to say no. In addition to planning the time you need, there's also ways to find those ways to eliminate unnecessary drains on your time and energy. So saying no for some people works really well. And like me, I'm a bit of a giver, so I like to say yes to people, but it's not necessarily a good trait. So just think about your energy levels and your own productivity. People who are really productive tend to have a few characteristics in common. Let me just talk you through these. So really productive people tend to be goal orientated, really organised, focused, mentally strong. They have really good self-care, and they're really good at dealing with distractions. And then the opposite, people that aren't so productive struggle to set goals. They're not so organised. They can be unfocused. They can give up easily. They perhaps don't look after themselves so well, and they're easily distracted. So I guess if you want to be more productive and you can emulate more of the characteristics on the left, that will be good. So the goal orientation, organisation, focus, self-care, and distraction management are all really essential skills. And there are massive benefits to being productive. People who are healthy and happy also tend to be more productive. They get more sleep, they eat healthier foods, and they take time for themselves regularly, including exercise. And when you are healthy and happy and you know how to switch off, you definitely achieve more. So it's really important to decompress and relax and enjoy life. Sounds easy, doesn't it? And like I said to you before, you guys probably know that the things and the behaviour, but I mean, can either of you recognise any of these characteristics in yourself? Do they resonate with you? Have you got any words of wisdom?
Well, obviously, some of those are very difficult to do when you have ADHD.
Of course.
Some of them are extremely difficult to do, even though you know you have to do them.
Of course.
And
I apologise if in any way, that's a juxtaposition.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just, they they are more difficult for us than they're difficult for everybody, right? They're difficult for everybody. It's not easy to do any of this kind of stuff. It sounds, you know, so easy, as we were saying earlier, you know, it sounds really easy to do stuff, but, you know, setting boundaries and, you know, blah, you know, self-care and, you know, making sure that you get enough sleep and you eat properly and, you know, all those things. We all know that we're supposed to do them, but they're actually a lot more difficult to do than they sound. And it's just that with having ADHD, they become even more difficult. So like one of the things, for example, eating can be extremely difficult for people with ADHD. And so you have to do stuff like eat to a schedule, which is what I do now. I don't eat when I'm hungry. You know, people say, oh, eat when you're hungry. Yeah, if I did that, it would be next week because I wouldn't notice. You know, I just wouldn't. I wouldn't notice. I don't notice that I'm hungry. I can. People say to me, how do you forget to eat? It's very simple. I don't notice my body telling me I'm hungry until I actually pass out because I've got low blood sugar. You know, by which time I can easily have not eaten for 24 or more hours. So and that's not healthy for anybody.
No.
You know, so now I eat to a schedule. I eat 3 times a day. End of story. If I'm not hungry, it doesn't matter. You know, I eat because I know my body needs to have 3 meals a day. So, you know, and the other thing is, and also I drink a lot of water. I don't drink water when I'm thirsty. I drink water because my body needs to be hydrated.
Yes.
So, you know, if I waited until I was thirsty, what would happen is I'd get to the end of the day and having not drunk anything, and then I'd be drinking liters of water in one go.
Yep.
You know, so it's I can't remember what I was actually going to say to you though. Well, I was going to say something. I was going to say something about how you know, you have to actually, no, honestly, I cannot remember. I was going to say something. It's gone completely.
When it comes back, which you just push in. It's not a problem at all. I think one of the points you were making is it's easier said than done, and I think that was the essence of what you said, and that it's difficult if you've got ADHD, which I totally get. And I think in the future, when you're doing your coaching, you know, you're going to have a number of different markets. One might be parents of children with ADHD, one will be adults, one potentially could be business owners. And what you're saying today, I think, Leslie, is really powerful, because you could do something like this, but you could take it up a notch to the next level. So whilst you recognise this, here are the strategies for you if you've got ADHD. And so in that, I'm hoping you're getting some stuff out of this and some ideas for your business. But you know what it is that you need to communicate. So it's really insightful. So thank you very much. Okay, let's give you some tips. Okay, I want to talk to you about work-life balance. How do you get work-life balance when you're working from home? Well, here's some tips for you. Number one, let go of perfection. We all need to do this. We're all guilty of this. Plus, there's always more that you can do. So that's why it's important to stop at a certain time at the end of the day, maybe set a schedule. So I think that's important. Reflect on what went well. So reflect on the good things that happened on that day and be proud of the good thing. There's always good. Even if you feel like you've had a bad day, there's always some good that's happened in that day. Let it go. Like Elsa in Frozen, if something didn't go well, let it go, because what you focus on does definitely get bigger. And try and remember to focus on those positive thoughts rather than those negative thoughts. Be aware of them and the amount of traffic that's going on in your brain. Think, okay, that's the devil one. I want the angel one. So let's have a bit more review. If you've got people that work for you and you're running a business from home, check everybody in your team is okay. Check with them before you finish for the day, and if they're not okay, make sure you allow time tomorrow to check on them again and see if they're okay. And then really importantly, how are you? How am I? Check that you're okay. And if you're not okay, where are you going to get the help from, or who are you going to turn to? Make sure that you do. allow time to sort that out. And then really importantly, it's important to mark work that has finished. If you're struggling to switch off at the end of the day, then you ought to set a schedule or an alarm or some kind of timer. It might mean tidying up your desk or turning on your out of office, and make sure to kind of finish in that routine. This is incredibly hard when you're setting up a business. I get that. But then make sure you're taking those regular breaks, make sure you're eating, make sure you're getting outside, getting some fresh air. And then at the end of your workday, shift your focus. Start to put business out of your head if you're possible and move family and home life back into your head. Maybe you can listen to some music, or, you know, kind of turn your personal phone back on or take your do not disturb off for those personal messages. And really remember to still socialise. When you set up a business, it's really easy for your friends to kind of be pushed back to the wings and your business takes centre stage. It's really important that you don't lose the essence of who you are when you run a business. Talking of socialising, I want to talk about the power of professional socialising and the rewards it can bring. So I just want to talk about the buddying system. I mean, I don't know if you guys are doing this, but traditionally the buddying system was created for new starters and existing employees in large organisations, but this works perfectly for businesses and even more so for those working from home, especially if you're the only person working in your business. So who are you going to bounce ideas off? Who can encourage you? Who tells you what a great job you're doing? Unless you're a master of that positive self-talk or have a really supportive partner. We are pack animals. Humans are. We're social creatures. We need other humans. That's a fact. So if you can find another business owner that works from home in the similar space to you, in a similar geographical area to you, if not, it doesn't matter, but find someone that understands the challenges you both face. Create your own buddy system. So have a regular weekly coffee meeting with them. It can be virtual, of course, and see the power of a great buddy system. Share ideas, information, even go networking together, because we all love that. More on that later. So if you do nothing else from today's session, you don't already have one, please get yourself a business buddy. So I just alluded to networking. I appreciate this is an activity that's totally like Marmite. You either love it or hate it, but let's just talk about it briefly now. Love it or loathe it. There are so many benefits to networking. There's also a multitude of different ways you can do this. And just like finding the right diet or exercise that works for you, you really need to explore what type of networking doesn't just work best for your business, but also for you personally. There's those stand up, there's a 60-second clock going, works for some people, doesn't work for a lot of businesses. There's those rooms where you have to mingle, works well for a lot of different businesses. There's those where you keep going back and meeting the same people, which is fine when you're working in a kind of micro geography. And there's these online networking opportunities. I guess with this mainly, you have to come out of your comfort zone unless you're really gregarious. So I've got some practical tips to help you with networking. Firstly, go to the right type of events, research and diarise regular networking events and meetings to attend, and look for events that are really relevant to your industry. So the NEC, you know, there's lots of stuff that's out there which is specific to your industry and will give you those kind of new contract, potentially, contacts, which is important. Like going to the gym, it's not always appealing to go, but unless you go, you won't get the benefits. And trust me, they can be huge. Then have a goal in mind. Why are you going? What's the purpose? Once you're clear that it's to grow your business, make sure you set yourself some outcome goals. So how many people do you plan to connect with after this networking event? 5 or 10? Remember, really productive people are goal orientated. So set yourself a goal. How many businesses do you want to have a follow-up meeting with? Maybe 2? Have your goals in mind and set your mind to achieve them. Then be prepared. Just make sure you've got everything you need. Make sure you've got a QR code for your business, which is really easy to set up, or business cards, or your brochures, whatever it might be. Make sure you've got everything you need to take with you. Know how to start and end a conversation. Don't forget, you're networking to qualify potential clients that would be a good fit for your business and have a need for your product or service. So have a few conversation starters up your sleeve. Feeling nervous in a room full of strangers won't boost your confidence or sell your business. So try to avoid saying, what do you do, as it generally doesn't start much of a conversation. Don't talk about the weather. Try and avoid the small talk if you can. Don't be worried about being direct either, because everybody there wants new connections and wants to do business with more people. That's why you're all there. So tell me about your business is a great way to start an opening question. Tell your story. Massively important. Great business owners are great storytellers. You both today told me, you introduced yourselves and both told a really fantastic story. And if you can do that with new contacts, you really bring the barriers and the walls down very quickly. So know how to tell your story and talk about your products or services without waffling. Just like an actor or a performer, role playing beforehand is a really great idea. Friends, family are in the mirror. Remember, you're there to qualify clients, find new people to do business with. So make sure that the person you're talking to has the money, the authority, they're the right decision makers, and a need that your product or service can fill. Mingle. Don't forget, if the person you're speaking to doesn't have the money, the authority, or the need, then move on. It may feel rude, but that's why you're there. You're there to qualify potential clients. You're not there for a chat. So don't get stuck in the corner with someone that will not be able to help your business. Stuck in that comfort zone. I've done it before, chatting because you like them. It's not going to help grow your business. So move on. But remember to be polite, of course. Everyone there is there for the same reason. It's 100% okay to mingle. Use strong, confident body language, even if you don't feel like it inside. Pay attention to that non-verbal communication when you're networking. So the examples of that are tone of voice, speaking style, your stance, making eye contact, facial expressions, etc. So hold your head up high, smile, and remember the next person that you speak to could be your newest and largest client. And awareness of your body language will definitely build stronger rapport. Then go with your networking buddy. If you're new to networking, why not take along a networking buddy for your first couple of events or meetups, or consider going with an existing client who also wants to grow their business and can advocate for you whilst you're there. You may even meet someone at a networking event who's going to be really happy to go to future events with you. They might feel just like you. And if you go with a buddy, do make sure that you still move around the room and chat to new people. And then always follow up. Don't hesitate to follow up with those warm or hot leads straight after the event. And if you can book in a continuation meeting at the event, so you've got some kind of diary with you, electronic or not, that's all the better. You may want to offer a pro bono or a lost lead, a piece of work initially to build up your business and win further work from that person. So in summary, learn to love networking. You win some, you lose some. Not all work and networking events will be worthwhile. I've been to many that were a waste of time, but don't get despondent and let that put you off. All you need is that one large new client and you will start to love networking and the rewards you can reap. So keep moving forwards. If you need more business, set yourself a personal goal of diarising at least 1 to 2 networking events per calendar month. And of course, Twitter, LinkedIn, X as it's called now, can be a great way to make initial introductions before meeting face to face and for follow-up as well. So that's really it for me today.